Want to get ahead in digital-first content? The Drop is the go-to newsletter for industry professionals, delivering insider news, trends, and insights straight to your inbox. Navigate the fast-changing landscape of digital-first production, distribution, and monetization. Sign up now for free at dropmedia.co.uk and stay informed with The Drop. Hi, I'm Justin Crosby. This week on Telecast, we're joined by Tom Jenkins, Creative Director of Spud Studios, the digital-first indie behind the hugely popular MASH channel. Fresh from taking full ownership of MASH from Channel 4, Spud is enjoying a run of strong growth, brand partnerships with the likes of Xbox and Baldur's Gate, and 4 big wins at the inaugural Telecast Digital Video Awards. We'll hear how Spud is building on MASH's global fan base, why independence matters, and where the studio sees the future for fan-focused animation in the new production economy. Tom, welcome to Telecast. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah.
Great to have you here.
Thanks.
And this is, you might be our first ever animation studio on Telecast after 240 episodes.
Wow. Yeah.
I think so, pure animation anyway. But yeah, well, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks.
And, amazing success you've had. I'm really looking forward to getting into that, talking about that in a little bit. But first of all, tell us about Spud Gun. Tell us about the origin story of Spud Gun, where it comes from.
If I told you the whole story, we'd probably that would be it. This would be the one answer we'll be finished by the time that I finished, honestly. So I'm going to try and tell a really condensed version. So MASH was initially an end of year kind of like TV show. It was actually 4 Studios precursors, I think, first broadcast commission. So ultimately what it was, right, is it was an end-of-year review show that worked with online kind of creatives, comedians, puppeteers, animators, live-action musicians to kind of create short sketches and videos about, the events of the year. That ultimately was commissioned as a YouTube channel in 2013. And over its history, MASH shifted from something that kind of covered current affairs and kind of politics and kind of, I guess, wider news in the UK to something that focused exclusively on video games and gaming. So
right.
What is MASH now? MASH is a large kind of animation channel across YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, and we make narrative-driven comedy content about games and video game culture with a sprinkling of internet and pop culture, a really eclectic range of genres, from like music to drama to horror to sci-fi. So yeah, that's kind of what we do.
And so MASH is run by the Connected Set and was originally run by the Connected Set. Just to explain that
Correct.
a little bit.
So the Connected Set were commissioned by Channel 4 to like develop and make MASH, both as the broadcast show and as the YouTube channel. So yeah, that was me working for the Connected Set with a vast range of people over its kind of history. But that was myself, Jason Mitchell, a number of other kind of people who were involved. So yes, it was run via the Connected Set for most of its history until April of this year, when it was taken over by Spud Studios, which is like the new company that owns and operates MASH.
Okay, and that sits within Connected Set.
Spud Studios is a standalone new co.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So still with the involvement of some previous people within the Connected Set, but yes, It's a brand new company.
Right.
It's a new era.
Exciting.
It's a new era, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've been saying era for, I think, decades, and I found out recently that it's not how you say it. So
you say it how you want. Yeah. So you basically bought the company out of Channel 4, and that was after about a decade, you say, something like that, of being owned by Channel 4. Why was the time right for MASH to become independent of Channel 4 then?
Well, I mean, I think ultimately Channel 4 decided that they no longer wanted to kind of recommission and proceed with MASH, I guess strategies and kind of directions change, and I think in some ways, it's crazy. I think we were maybe Channel 4's one of their longest running commissions. We launched August 2013. So we've been going for a long time, and I think ultimately they decided they wanted to do something different.
And their focus on 4 Studios, obviously taking them in a bit of a different direction.
Yeah, exactly that. And I just think that we well, we see the potential. Like, it's got a massive audience. Kind of video gaming as an industry is obviously kind of going from strength to strength, regardless of, I guess the kind of chaos that's at the very kind of upper echelons of video gaming. It's still a massive entertainment industry. It still makes more money than any other kind of entertainment industry.
Bigger than movies. Let's not forget that it's bigger than movie industry, bigger than the TV industry, and just enormous entertainment juggernaut, really.
Exactly. And I think we love Mashed. We love making the content. We've got a really dedicated and large audience. We've built that over like a long period of time, and we felt like we wanted to kind of carry on with it because we can see where it can kind of go. And I think in a lot of ways we've barely scratched where it can be and what its potential is.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You can now take that brand in any direction you want, which is really exciting. Let's talk about those numbers for a second. The most recent stats I have here are for March, and that's 45 million views for Mashed in March alone.
Yeah.
And during that period, you had 100,000 new subscribers, and you've got close to 7 million cross-platform followers. So that's a huge community. So I can see why you wanted to take on and build. So, being independent, what's that going to look like now? What you said, you can take Mashed in lots of different directions. What is that? Is that new shows? Is that live events? Is that really utilizing the different opportunities that the new production economy can lend you? Because you can do anything you like, actually, and bring that to life and meet the fans, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think for us, what it means is really making the most of the commercial opportunities that we feel were kind of there. I mean, we can be a lot more nimble. We can strike more interesting deals. Obviously, we don't have to move through the same structures that we were kind of used to, which could sometimes, slow us down, which is kind of understandable, but just the nature of working at large organizations and the chains and the procedures that, need to be kind of followed and kind of gone up, So we've already done more commercial deals since we took over in April in the last, 3-4 months than we've done in probably the last 2 years before that.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's a real range of deals as well. Everything from integrations to full-blown pieces of branded content. Some have sat on Mashed, others have sat on respective channels. And there's a number of other kind of conversations going on.
So that's great. Branded content, animated branded content is, there must be huge opportunity there for you, in that space. Tell us about, I think there was a recent project that you did as well with a gaming business. Tell us about that one.
We're talking about, there's so many. We're talking about God's TV.
Yeah. Well, you talk about God's TV. As you say, there's 2 or 3 actually, but there's Crystal of Atlan as well.
Yes.
I think.
So that's an interesting one because I guess it feeds back into what you were asking about. What can we do now? So ultimately, kind of what we've been trying to do is our publishing schedule. We actually publish less content at the moment than we did when we were kind of under Channel 4. I mean, primarily about kind of like funding, but what we've been looking at when we're commissioning content is where is the value? How does this give us a return? So that comes down to, does it serve the health of the channel? Does it bring in revenue? Does it have a strategic benefit to us, maybe in the medium to the long term, right? So with the Crystal of Atlan deal, that was really interesting because that is based on a series that actually won an award at the Telecast Awards, which is the Donkey Kong Experience, which is like a fictional podcast show that kind of taps into both video games and like the culture wars that seem to be kind of fought very much on podcasts as like one of the front lines of the culture wars, right?
Yeah.
So
it's like to anybody that hasn't seen Donkey Kong Experience, it's like a Joe Rogan animated gorilla in a podcast show, a bit like this, interviewing different video games characters.
So it's a Joe Rogan coded comedy podcast.
Right.
With a series of different kind of guests. And I guess what we look to do is we try and combine kind of like humor based around kind of gaming and, the kind of the characters and their backstories, with kind of culture war and more kind of, I guess, relatable, broader kind of subjects, so kind of like everything from, I guess, the economy of bananas. What's an economy based purely on bananas? What does that look like? Kind of how does that work? To kind of, I guess, the slightly more kind of cerebral, like what happens when you die? If you're a game character but you respawn, what does death mean to you? How do you kind of pass that out? You know, so kind of like, it's something that I like to do quite a lot, which is like, it's like high concept but low brow, I guess is probably the way to describe it. But obviously, one thing that everybody has a podcast tries to do is they want to sell products as well. So that allows us to then place integrations within the podcast in a quite natural way that viewers are already used to experiencing when watching other podcasts. Yeah. So Crystal of Atlan was a advert for a kind of an action RPG video game. And we placed that advert, which was also a comedy advert, like never a straight advert. We never do straight adverts. We never try and sell hard. It's just madness.
Yeah. So you'll script, you'll come up with a creative solution for the client. Yeah, essentially.
Correct. So what we are then able to do is that goes out as like a long form episode, right? Because what we're doing is we're doing less releases, but we're doing longer durations for watch time, for mid-roll ads, etc. And then we place the integrations in there, but then we also place that integration as a standalone short as well. So it allows us to kind of like leverage the audience and the different ways that we can distribute that content as like a force multiplier, you know, for kind of like impressions and views. Yeah. So yeah, they were incredibly happy. It's good for us. Yeah, helps fund other kind of like directions that we want to go in. So yeah.
Brilliant.
The Donkey Kong Experience.
Boom, and we're live with a dude who's so shady, he's a shadow. How's it going, my brother from another mother, who is a hedgehog, I guess?
Good. Well, I do well.
I bet you do well, bro. You know, your wiki page says you're the ultimate life force.
Life form. But yeah, that's me.
And under power and abilities, yo, this just keeps going.
You might have to accept cookies.
But okay, walk with me here. You have super speed.
Natch.
You can teleport.
Yep.
You can throw energy spears?
Wait, I see where you're going with this.
And you're immortal, like a vampire or a Highlander. So...
It's been 20 years since...
Why do you use a gun?
Man, it was the 2000s, okay? It was either use a gun or get a tribal tattoo.
Yeah, I know, dude. I was there. Let's just say Mario didn't pick the gun. You know what I mean?
From what I remember, you were strapped back in those days.
We've talked about enormous success, 7 million cross-platform followers, Tom. I mean, what is it that's driving that momentum? Obviously it's super long established, it's been established for a decade or so, but, are you seeing that growth speeding up? And what do you put it down to? What do you put down that success down to?
I mean, I think we really know our audience. We know our audience and what they like. I think it's that we still continue to make content that we enjoy making. And I think kind of obviously gaming is an area that's like incredibly kind of popular, and it's something that we do and we still kind of play kind of quite a lot. So I would put that down to, like a really great team who follow data and do look at how kind of audiences engage with that kind of content. And I think also we're quite unique in that our content offering is pretty eclectic. It's quite wide and varied, and I think that what we're trying to do with all of our content is, what are the hooks? What are the things that are going to make people interested in what we're doing? And I think one thing that we do really well is we kind of genre bend, like I think we look at a story and it's like, what is that relatable arc throughout the story that anybody could approach without any assumed knowledge and still understand? Then what are like the onion layers over that, the little in-jokes, the nods, the kind of the deeper stuff, that's kind of really for the super fans as well. But then it's like, can we take this story and can we tell it through the genre of anime, but can we also make it musical and tap into an audience that likes music, So I think we're always looking for like 5, 6, 7 hooks that can kind of get an audience. And I think that that's something that we've honed over years and we've got very, very good at. And even with our content, understanding how we can take one piece of content that works successfully as an 8-minute episode, but then how do we work that out into shorts and other platforms and see how that does, And I think with Donkey Kong Experience as an example, quite often our shorts do 5, 6, 7 million views in addition to the main release, So I think for us, when we're commissioning now, it's looking at the ecosystem, understanding how a piece of content can work in each platform, in each way, and how you need to kind of like finesse that to make it work. Yeah.
Well, it's a great example of understanding your audience, doubling down on your niche and providing amazing content for, the wider fan audience, but also the super fans all at the same time. And it's really smart. And, you talk about creating different content for different platforms.
Yeah.
And just in terms of your series brands then, how many different shows do you put out per week? And how many different series brands have you got? And how many releases are you putting out on a week?
So we're putting out, in terms of kind of like full length releases, it's 1 to 2 a month. It's normally one original and then a different kind of release, right? So that's kind of like the longer kind of content. And that is like there to sit for watch time, for retention, for kind of channel health, right? And then we have maybe 3 different shorts that go out per week. So that's a mixture of new content and kind of like existing like library content as well, like recut or re-edited or reworked, depending on what's required. And then that content is frequently augmented by commercial deals we then do, where kind of clients want us to publish the work on the YouTube channel and the various kind of other social platforms that we run as well.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. But in terms of different series brands, then you said Donkey Kong Experience.
So there's Donkey Kong Experience, and then there's something about that. It's called There's Something About.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Right.
So this is a kind of like a Sonic parody series that we first launched a number of years ago, and that has just built like a phenomenal audience. So it's actually kind of like, for us, at times quite intense, kind of like drama, quite heavy. It's gone in a direction where the characters barely reflect the characters in the games, because that's one thing that we always want to try and do with all of the content we make, even with parody. Like, it has to be transformative. It has to have its own kind of like vibe, its own kind of like approach. So that is the other kind of like the premium series that we're working on at the moment.
Right.
So that is kind of 8 to 12 minutes an episode.
Yeah.
Every other month we publish a new episode of that. And that obviously does really well views-wise, but that's what also drives a lot of our audiences to things like Patreon and kind of other places as well, helps us with merchandise. So, as you can see, each original that we self-publish and fund is serving 2, 3, 4 different kind of like objectives for us as a company.
Yeah, yeah. And where are your audience then? I mean, what is it mainly UK and US, or can you break us down roughly across both of those brands?
Yeah, so like the audience is like our largest audience is in the US, and then we have like sizable audiences in the UK, Germany, some other parts of Western Europe, South America. There's a few countries in South America where we have quite a large audience, almost exclusively driven by our musical content, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
So yeah, that's where our audience really kind of is almost proportional to population sizes in each country. That's how we kind of look at it.
Okay.
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Obviously not big in China yet.
Yeah.
But maybe they're watching it via other means. Yeah.
And is it dubbed then, or how do you localize content then?
So we don't currently dub audio. We do, however, have lots of different kind of subtitling options.
Yeah.
But I think that YouTube has currently or recently rolled out a feature that does create
it's auto dubbing,
dubs.
right?
Yeah. I haven't listened to how good it is, but I imagine it's serviceable, is what my guess would be.
Well, yeah, I saw that come up on the telecast a few weeks ago, but I'm not seeing any noticeable spikes. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any. I'm guessing that there's no noticeable spikes that you've seen, in terms of once that function has been turned on.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen like a massive kind of change, and I think that if you really want to kind of make the most of non-English speaking audiences, you should go for a proper dub, something that feels premium, because like our content is premium, and I think that we always want it to be experienced in the best way it can be.
Yeah. So talking about, we were just talking before we started recording about you went to Gamescom recently, and obviously that is another huge industry event that many in the TV industry probably won't be aware of, but that's almost like the Glastonbury of the video gaming industry when it comes to, it's almost like E3 and Can Lion and MIPCOM and everything all rolled into one for the gaming industry, and it's over in Germany. So how was that? How was your trip
it
over
was
there?
phenomenal. I mean, I think it's the biggest gaming event in the world now. I think now that kind of E3 and like the big American events have kind of, shut down, and lots of kind of manufacturers now in gaming in the US are running their own kind of more curated kind of console specific events. Yeah, Gamescom's the last one standing. But yeah, it was an absolutely incredible event. I mean, this place, if anybody goes and has a look at the venue, it makes XL looks like a cottage. It's absolutely huge. I think they had over 500,000 people kind of go through it. It's Wednesday to Friday, but there's on a Monday and Tuesday there's like a DevsCon, like that's kind of developer only as well. But yeah, we went there, so like mass business to business space. Then there's a big kind of consumer facing space as well. But like, developers and trade bodies from literally all over the world. Like, yeah, most countries are there, are represented, all kind of regions. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Pretty much any game that you can expect to come out either now or in the near future will be there represented somewhere or other, from like one TV and a small little stand, and kind of like sort of hopeful people with big grins to absolute monster games with 10-foot statues and kind of, But yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah.
And for you, obviously there's brand partnership opportunities with a lot of those video games companies there, but also you're looking to create animation for cutscenes in games as well. So that's another area of expansion.
Yeah, I mean, so when we went out there, we had like, a load of different meetings to kind of, for people to talk to. Some people we worked with already on previous projects who wanted to kind of talk to us about like, what do we do next, which was kind of great. We found out that we're big in Poland. That was quite fun. So like we made a cartoon for a game called The Altars kind of quite recently, which is kind of like this kind of really unique game, like a philosophical sci-fi game where you can clone different versions of yourself who made different life choices and therefore ended up with different careers. So you have a miner, you have a scientist, you have a botanist, so you can kind of clone the right person to kind of fix whatever problem it is you're facing. So we went to meet them because they were really happy with kind of what we'd done with them. And a bunch of the company who we hadn't met piled into this little booth to kind of tell us, how great we've been doing. But we then found out from a number of other Polish developers who we'd met that they'd been talking about us and, had vouched for our quality. And so it's kind of, you have bizarre scenarios like that, where you meet people and find out that, big in Poland.
Very good.
But even down to like, I met up with the creative director of a company called Digital Extremes, somebody called Reb Ford, and Mashed's first ever bit of branded content we made with them, and it was called 100 Days of Warframe, and they still use it as a benchmark internally to show how kind of branded content should work. And that was 2015, I think, that we did that. And I met up with her, and she was just like, "It's great to meet you. We need to do a follow-up. What happens next?" But it was so cool that we created something that had still resonated and made such an impact on them as a company. Yeah, that like 10 years later, they want to kind of get the band back together.
Fantastic. That's great. That's great. And so you mentioned Patreon. Yeah. So any digital first production business these days has got to have multiple revenue streams. You talked a bit about merchandising. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about overall, what are those revenue streams that you have over and above, obviously, what you're working on the brand funded side, and also potentially work for hire stuff when cut scenes, and also the advertising revenue you're generating through YouTube and other social channels. Tell us about Patreon and perhaps other interesting areas.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with Patreon, and if you don't know what it is, it's kind of just a service where people can kind of pledge to support, an artist or a creator that they kind of like, and then they get access to either the creator or kind of, early access for content, pre-production stuff. I guess it's a way to kind of be like a super fan, and it's also a way, I guess, to support creators financially who need that support to make the content that they kind of consume, right? But the whole reason that we launched the Patreon is because Mashed, for better or worse, Mash has been a faceless brand to an extent since its inception, right? Like we're not kind of creator led, like face first. And I think like for us, that in some ways has allowed us to kind of continue to evolve and change in a way that maybe individuals can't, right? However, now that we've kind of gone independent, we thought it was really important that those who backed us got a chance to actually meet the team, because, there's a team of like people who are really dedicated to the channel's success and to Spud Gun's success, who, are really talented and nobody ever knows who they are. So we're kind of pulling the curtain back a little bit and being, I guess, a bit more authentic and honest about these are our challenges. These are the things that we want to do, so as well as kind of seeing how we make things and getting access to model sheets and character designs and, all of this other kind of like, behind the scenes production stuff. It's a chance for them to connect with us directly and hear what we've got to say and I guess tell us what they want to watch.
And how does that manifest itself? Is that like studio visits and things like that?
So at the moment we have kind of like two kind of like live, I guess, series that we run. One kind of looks back at kind of like some of our biggest stuff and kind of like tells people, what went right, what definitely didn't go right, kind of like mistakes that never got noticed as well as the ones that did, kind of, I guess, the stories of a lot of the talent involved at the time, because some people have gone on, and done some really kind of fantastic things. So we have Inside Mashed, which is me and Tom Payne, who's the MD of Spud Gun, just talking to our audience about what's coming next, what they should get excited about, how they can support us. And then Making Mashed, which is a kind of a look back at.
And these exclusive videos.
These are exclusive. So these are exclusive videos that are available only on Patreon or to our YouTube members. But also it allows us to kind of like gauge how interested are they in a specific bit of merchandise, like what series do they want us to kind of like push ahead in, and that gives them access to the Discord, So I think that is a revenue stream, but really that's much more about connecting with the audience in a more meaningful way. But in terms of revenue beyond ad rev and kind of branded deals, we also distribute music. So we have published over the years a number of kind of like pretty popular music tracks. So they're distributed over various different kind of like digital storefronts as well. So we also get revenue from music streams as well. So
and how is that related to the channel then?
So we have a track record for incredibly popular animated music videos as well. Right. So they were launched obviously as videos on Mashed, but then also made available as purchasable and streamable music tracks as well.
And how did they, I don't want to get too granular here, but how did they come about? Was that you producing music videos for tracks that by third-party artists, and then that you were distributing it through your channel, or
So no, none of us. I can't sing. No, I can't sing. So that was us working with like musicians who, I guess, sat in the same space as us. Because like in terms of music about video games is like, I think nerdcore is kind of like a blanket kind of like term, but this is like a burgeoning kind of space in music with like more and more interest and kind of audiences, every day. So. And some of them are signed to some major labels now, as well as there being some like major live events, like MagFest and a bunch of others. So we would often go to them and say, we've got an idea for a song. Can you help us make the song? Sometimes a musician will come to us and be like, we really want to make a song about X game. Do you guys want to do the video? So, but yes, we were commissioned and worked on. I love music. I like DJ very sporadically. I've always been really into music. So it was a chance for me to kind of like pretend that I'm a producer and I know the difference between like a bass line and, So kind of, but I know what I like and I know what, I think I know what, kind of good music sounds like. I like to think.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so what about new opportunities and revenue opportunities going forward? Now that you're newly independent, what are the biggest opportunities that you see there for Mashed and Spud Gun commercially?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think kind of like for us, we don't want to kind of settle on one revenue stream. Like we don't want to become comfortable with one way of making kind of money, because I think that that's kind of like incredibly dangerous with how volatile like the market and the industry is and will like continue to be. So I think for us, we want to continue to build commercial partnerships. Like we have great relationships with our commercial partners. We nearly always make follow-up content with them after we've kind of established that relationship, whether that's kind of immediately or a number of years later. You know, we always leave a really great impression with the people that we work with. But like, we want to go bigger than that with our commercial partners. You know, like we have some plans for certain approaches that kind of work in a way that's maybe a little bit different or a little bit of a larger scale than what we're used to doing now. And then we also want to make original content. You know, like I think that is a major focus for us, and it's something that we've dabbled with in the past, but you know, we never were really able to kind of focus on it in a way that we wanted to because of the nature of the channel at the time and the objectives that were set to us. But yes, I think original content is absolutely where we want to be soon.
Potentially new series brands.
Exactly, fully original. No reliance on any existing third-party IP.
Longer form movies?
Yeah, I mean, movies, maybe not movies kind of quite yet. Certainly longer form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you recently moved into the FAST area, didn't you? FAST TV. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so we were approached by a channel called Animation Plus. They're a US-based channel. They're available on kind of like a bunch of different smart TVs. I think they're also available. They've just done a deal with Roku as well on the Roku box. So ultimately, this company saw an opportunity and a massive appetite for adult animation and I guess kind of creator-led animation. So they approached us about licensing our content amongst other kind of creators' content. And now it can be watched across, you know, millions, I guess, of kind of smart TVs and kind of devices, you know, like beyond kind of YouTube. So we signed that with them. I think actually just quite recently there was another announcement of another adult animation fast channel, I think on the drop, actually. I saw it the other day. So like this is obviously an area where brands and companies can see like an audience and revenue opportunities.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our experience as it stands with Fast. Yeah.
And finally, congratulations again on the Telecast Digital Video Awards.
Thank you. 4
awards on the night, the big winners of the night.
Yep.
How was that? Was that a surprise? I mean, what was the experience like?
It was surreal for us. I mean, like, you'd have to, I think, be a real digital OG to kind of know our history amongst award ceremonies. But like, we are the absolute perennial award ceremonies bridesmaids. We've been nominated many times and never kind of quite got it, although we did win a Promax Silver Award. So like that's what I've been waving like desperately for years, like, look guys, okay. But no, I mean, it was brilliant for us. I think kind of like, you know, we'd just taken full control of MASH. We were obviously kind of like still in the stages of figuring out how this was all going to work once we kind of hit reality. You know, we were nominated, I think, for five awards on the night. We weren't sure if we were going to win any. So when the first one was announced and the judging criteria was announced, I was kind of like, hang on a second, I think like there's a pretty good shot here. So it was great. It was like, I won't go into the whole like, you know, each one of the awards, but for us, I think it was like real vindication of like the content that we make, the direction that we're taking, the fact that the risk that we're taking in terms of, you know, acquiring Mashed and what that kind of takes in order to make it successful. So I mean, it was a brilliant night. Like, winning awards is really fun. Like what I guess is a massive shock to absolutely nobody. But it was great. Yeah. Felt really happy with it and
timely as well, I suppose. As you say, it was the timing was just right with the. You know,
I've never been in a situation in my life where I'm like, okay, who's taking which awards? This is me and other Tom, you know. So they're still pride of place. So if you ever watch one of our Patreon videos, you will see them in the background. They're part of my kind of like DIY Patreon set,
stage set. Excellent. So finally, you know, looking at the wider digital first landscape, how do you see this whole area developing? I mean, you're in a, you know, you've got all the right components to be successful in terms of fandom, in terms of, you know, experience, in terms of understanding your audience and really super serving them as well, you know, with the right sort of content. I mean, you know, the digital first space is, you've been in it for 10 years, but, you know, that really is becoming to most of the wider TV industry's consciousness over in the last 12 months, 18 months or so. I mean, how do you see it developing?
I mean, I think for me, what you're probably going to see is audiences further gravitating towards kind of creators. And I think ultimately what you're going to have to start seeing soon is some sort of kind of like coalescence of different kind of brands. I think that things are still incredibly disparate. And I think that there is like on the horizon, the near horizon, there is like a slop apocalypse coming, you know, with kind of like AI video and kind of content. And I think that soon what viewers are going to value more than anything is going to be like authenticity, and I guess like a tastemaker, a creator who can kind of, they know that the content that they're going to watch is authentic and from them, and they can kind of trust where it's going to come from. And I think, where the industry is going right now is using these audiences and I guess building out, and I guess what is the right direction for that content creator? You know, is it live events? You know, is it kind of like live action? Is it animated series? Is it games? And I think what you're actually going to start seeing is far more crossover in a similar manner to the deal that we signed with Melbot, you know, where you have kind of like creators either sitting within 3 or 4 different digital kind of entertainment spaces, or collaborations between companies who have complementary kind of skills in specific areas.
Interesting. And my last question, which just occurred to me, and I should have asked you earlier on, but AI might be a dirty word for you when it comes to 2D animation, or is it? I mean, because you know that animation is, you know, typically so painstaking.
Yeah.
It's such a long process. Surely AI will just, you know, supersize everything that you do and you create and enable you to triple your production output really easily. Are you going to do that?
I mean, so Mashed we will never use an AI animation or create an AI animation that will go out on Mashed. Like Mashed is going to be human made kind of content.
Right.
I'm not anti AI, but like I think for me, AI has to be used in a way that feels kind of like ethical and kind of like correct. So like, would I use it as a tool to help me maybe look at a range of different color palettes for a set of backgrounds, you know, like at a pre-production stage, you know? Yes, I would. But would I use it to kind of create animated content? I think for us right now, the answer is no. And I think that our audience really values the fact that what they're seeing are made by people that they kind of rate and they look up to. So I think, for us, it's not a direction that we'd go in at this moment in time.
And that'd be a USP, really. The fact is, it's handmade, it's craft, really, isn't it? And it's and that's what sets this apart from, you know, AI slop, I think is the term that's going.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I watch AI slop, and some of it is incredibly funny, even if it's kind of like disturbing. But yeah, I think for us, we've spent a long time building up like audience loyalty, you know, and an audience who really cares about what we do and the content that we make. And I think that I think they would also be very disappointed if if that was a direction that we went in. And I think kind of like that relationship with our audience is important. And I don't think it's something that we would endanger, you know, dabbling in that space. But it's like I was saying to you earlier, I think there is no escape from it. It is coming like in some shape or form. And I guess the question is going to be soon, like how audiences manage to find what they want and are even able to discern between what's AI and what's not. And I think there's a lot of AI-driven content in big films and other things that people are watching already, and they just don't know it yet. Yeah. I know that there are lots of rules and procedures about how broadcasters want it to be used and stuff, but I have no doubt that it's seeping in.
Yeah. But not for you.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Okay. Tom, now it's time for Story of the Week, which is the part in the show where my guests get to nominate their most interesting TV industry story from the past 7 days. So what's your story of the week?
So I'm keeping it real and staying well within my space. So a trailer was released for a series called The Knights of Guinevere. So that was published, I think, a couple of days ago. It's already 3.5 million views on a trailer. So it is Glitch Productions' first 2D animated series. So the reason this was interesting to me and like, I guess inspiring as well is that, so Glitch started off as a YouTube channel first. They have a channel called SMG24, which is kind of like Machinima, based primarily on kind of like Nintendo kind of games. But they've also had like a number of quite successful 3D shows recently. So there was an old series called Murder Drones that did quite well, YouTube only, but obviously they've also made The Amazing World of Gumball, which is episodes getting hundreds of millions of views, optioned by Netflix to have a window where it can kind of be shown, you know. And I think for me, it's inspiring to see an animation studio that started off as a YouTube channel, that started off doing parody, moved into original content, has seen phenomenal success, and then, interestingly, has gone from 3D to 2D. So yeah, I think for me, it was really cool to see something obviously so in demand and like getting so much love from a dedicated audience who, for me, I guess, were on a similar path. Maybe not quite there yet, but like that was what was kind of great for me. So yeah, I'm really excited to see it kind of come out. And it's, again, genre bending. It's like a kind of like a, it's kind of like a cyberpunky action based, a little bit like, you know, Snow White and Cinderella, kind of like Disney style kind of fantasy. So like, again, they're pulling on all these different kind of pop culture and kind of like genre hooks and knitting it together in a brand new way. And yeah, it looks phenomenal. It's
all right,
really worth
fantastic.
checking out.
Well, we'll put a link in the episode description so you can check out that trailer. How about your hero of the week?
So I'm actually going to go old school TV, and my hero of the week is Munya Chihuahua. I watched his McTaggart alternative lecture, and it's really fascinating, actually. So TCS have done some work with Munya in the past, but for me, there was something glorious about a guy going up to like the home of old school television, you know, and kind of like events, and kind of really laying down where mistakes are being made, how they, you know, I guess the TV industry maybe missed out on opportunities with Munya, you know, and I guess like, yeah, an honest and timely kind of maybe reflection of certain areas and kind of spaces where TV could do better. And if they were willing to kind of do better or kind of try and embrace it, could probably get a lot of success themselves. So yeah.
Well, we'll see if they heed that. I mean, there's probably many opportunities that lots of TV industry have had to take advantage of the changes and see the changes that are happening, but perhaps haven't. But anyway, there we are. That's a whole nother podcast show. How about getting in the bin? What is it that you're
I'll tell you what's going to get in the bin, and it's also Edinburgh related, is the fact that there was a panel that was called YouTube, the End of TV.
Yes.
As we know it, you know it, question mark. I mean, this panel must have been running for 15 years with a different title and name. And I think, you know, my understanding is that it was completely packed out, like no room to even stand. And I just think it's like, yes, like it absolutely has come. It has already changed everything. You absolutely need to embrace it. Like, but it's still being presented as kind of like, has it happened yet? Will it happen? Like, I think for me, that can get in the bin because it just reflects a complete, I guess, a willingness to accept the current media landscape and where young audiences in particular are and are watching their content. And it's online, it's on YouTube, it's on Twitch, it's not on broadcast TV.
And it's still that sense that you know, that an industry still seeing this as a new thing, right? And well, you know, your business is a great example of a business that's been going for a decade. Many others have as well. Spirit Studio has been going for a long time. Many others in the digital first space have been, you know, in this space for a long time. And and to hear, you know, is this the future?
It's like, guys, please.
Tom, thank you so much for coming on Telecast. It's been brilliant speaking to you. And I think, you know, what you're doing with Spud Gun Studios is so exciting, and you know, it's a really great example of what a digital first studio can be, and you know, the stuff that you're doing is obviously, you know, delivering for your audience is amazing. It's very inspirational. So
thanks very much. I really appreciate it.
So congratulations on all that. Can't wait to hear and see what you're going to be doing next.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
Well, that's about it for this week's telecast. Thanks to my guest, Tom Jenkins from Spud Gun Studios. For the latest digital first industry news, don't forget to subscribe to The Drop at dropmedia.co.uk. And don't forget you can catch up on all previous episodes of Telecast on your podcast app of choice, on YouTube, or at telecast.com. We'll be back with another show next week. Until then, stay safe.